Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8. Okay, we have the new government secretary focus event. I'm going to go with the not now. I'm sort of looking at our daily descent will change by negative 2.5, but because we have a ideological crusaders in one of the positions, it's at negative 5, so I think it will still have a good situation, or maybe not. Okay, well, maybe not as much as I thought. That may have not been the best choice. It has cost us 3 ICs. Okay. And Brazil. Money for fuel. No, thank you. We're doing mildly well, 43%. Here, well, of course, we want to continue to grow our popularity. Okay, we will do that. No, thank you. No, thank you. As I was messaging back and forth with a few people, they were talking that Czechoslovakia was the only one really prepared for war. They were prepared for war, and they understood that they weren't going to be able to defeat Germany alone. No real hope of that. But they were hoping for and we'll get there, I know, we'll talk more about it, France and Britain to stand with them. But as I was just looking at the map, once Germany gets Austria, it's just too much of a border to defend, and they don't have defenses built up all along it, so it just gets to be too much, too impractical. You can't, can't defend all this Czechoslovakian border if everyone from all directions are coming at you. If you have the Yugoslavs, the Poles, and the Germans all coming at you, you're just too long, too much of a border. Okay, bombs have improved. We've got our 500. We will be dealing with 1,000 pound. But so far I'm liking my 1936 strategy of researching what's available to do in this year. Let's see how Spain is doing. Well, the Republicans are doing okay, and we've yet to have an event that will allow us to or a decision that will allow us to send aid. Okay, basic education is advanced. We're now on 36 on that, so we'll continue with that. As soon as we can, we will do, should be the next advancement. Increase our advanced education. All right. And the Blitzkrieg Doctrine. Now we'll do the deep battle. Do I have to ask? I guess I can. Do you guys like this type of setup in which you have the option basically to research everything? I think this is one of the few exclusive this or that type of choice. You know, I have some mixed feelings about this, because this human wave doctrine that, say, the U.S. I presume can research. I haven't played the U.S. far enough into the war, but Germany can. Germany never had a human wave tactic, as I understand the term. Obviously, it reduces combat with the sort of its effect, and there I could definitely see tactics that Germany could use that would reduce the combat width effectively of units. But if you're talking about human wave, obviously this sort of the opposite here, I guess, would be bonsai charge. So there's another either or. But to me, the human wave was something that was used definitely by the Chinese, including, in Korea. Was also used by the Soviets. A lot of their attacks may have been both human and sort of armored waves on a wider front, and just mass assaults across open territory. So I sort of so you can tell I'm a bit ambivalent about some of them. I don't, a grand battle plan shouldn't be exclusive from the Blitzkrieg doctrine, in my opinion, or the Schurplunk, maybe even more so, to me, is the element of a Blitzkrieg doctrine. The Blitzkrieg, to me, obviously that's an Allied term that put on top of the German sort of tactic, but the tactic was the combined arms of the armored, the artillery, the air power, the infantry, all of it working in concert on the enemy. It wasn't just an artillery barrage and then an infantry assault following on that artillery barrage, which was sort of the common Allied tactic in World War I. It was mixing them all together and making them all dance with each other. In the offensive, where the Schurplunk is determining where on the battlefield is the, shall we say, critical spot, the weight of attack, that you concentrate your attack there instead of all along the battlefield. Sometimes it depends on, of course, the size of the battlefield. You could be looking at shall we say, the French-Belgian border in Germany right along here as the battlefield. So you can have multiple Schurplunks along it. You don't have to have just a Schurplunk. Then obviously you get the battlefield the size of this, and you can have many Schurplunks. But the Schurplunk is, a concentration of force in an area, which would be, coming through the Ardennes, was the Schurplunk for that. Now there was definitely another, and I don't know exactly the path, but the other one, was coming up to get into the Amsterdam. And so that there were multiple ones of them, but it was a, concentration of force, as opposed to a few panzer divisions operating with, infantry and other elements. Not just the Blitzkrieg is, it can be just a panzer division, but there's infantry, artillery, tanks, reconnaissance, all of that in one division operating together. But you can have two panzer divisions moving here with air support as a Blitzkrieg, and two through here, and two through here, and two through here. That's not having a Schurplunk. It's Blitzkrieg, but it's diffused attack paths. That has often been done with initial forces, and then once you determine where the weak spot is, say it could be through here, your following reserves all come through here, and these other attacks presumably stall out. So you may have attacks the idea that you may have not planned a Schurplunk at the beginning because you were waiting to see where the enemy cracked and then go through, or you may have designed a Schurplunk in your weight of attack from the beginning to go through a particular path. Those are, those are not exclusive to each other. But some of the thinking may be in the next version, in the standard version, it is moddable. To have these types of things, you either choose the Blitzkrieg or you choose the Schurplunk, or the Spearhead Doctrine kind of thing, or you can, so some of them I do sort of kind of think to some degree are mutually exclusive or should just not be for certain nations because they did not do that in the war. I know that is limiting, great creativity on the part of the game player, and there's good reason not to do that. But I would like to hear your thoughts on whether the sort of black ice, and a lot of you are playing, not maybe everyone watching the series is playing black ice, but a lot of you are. Black ice sort of revels in many, many techs and with many, many opportunities, which I love. I'm playing this. But this can be overwhelming either to the first-time player or to the casual player who likes the game, likes World War II. But oh my God, this is just so much to try to figure out, and there's just too many. They want to make some fewer critical decisions on it. And this is, I would say, to some degree, the philosophy of Hearts of Iron 4, is they want the player to make the critical decisions and fairly quickly get results from those decisions to then make more decisions, but keep them sort of fewer than what we have here in Black Ice, because it was stated in a public forum, some of the developers aren't terribly fond of the way Black Ice is going. I think they know it's an important segment of their players, but that's not where they're looking at moving Hearts of Iron 4. And this was a long time ago. A year or more ago they said this. And fair enough. They're looking at what they think of their primary audience of the people who are going to play their game. But I will say this, and I know the modding TD came out. They are very, very friendly to modders. They're very, very friendly to the idea that a Black Ice of some sort will be for Hearts of Iron 4, and that we will be tearing apart, I don't know, me, but modders will be tearing apart the structure of their game and reforming it in different formats. They're very happy and supportive of that idea. They're just not going to be the primary ones going down this path. And so I don't plan on making mods personally that tear everything apart like this just because I'm going to focus on other elements. But how much, I guess I'm asking, how much control should players have over these kind of things? How historical should nations be kept? Should the path choices be, and how widespread should they be? And if you want to comment on that, because like I say, I'm not going to be building this, but this would be helpful to other mod builders, and because we do talk, and for what mods I'm going to be building TRE for when it comes, because I do suspect there will be mod teams that will make great mods, tactical gameplay type mods, that I may want to put TRE on top of as a historical immersion mod on top of a gameplay mod. There may be just so many that I can't do, pick out which events improve which techs in 10 different versions. That just may become overwhelming as a mod maker. But I sort of would like your thoughts on why you think this is a better way, or why you think what we're seeing out of Hearts of Iron 4 is a better way, or something. I would like to know. And partially what I want to know is from people who routinely play Black Ice, as opposed to the audience that you see in Hearts of Iron 4 forum, which are people who routinely play other Paradox games and have been overwhelmed by even standard Hearts of Iron. Well, we need to apply the other technology. You got talking too much. Sorry about that. I don't know if I am, but money for fuel, Ireland, okay. No. No. Now, they both have their names, Spanish State and Spanish Republic, on the map. There were 3 columns of the Spanish National Army that were marching on Madrid. That I don't know how well this sort of starting map replicates, but these 3 columns, and they were sort of well known. The reporters, they were talking about this column moving and this column moving, and at one point Franco was asked by a reporter, which of the 3 columns is going to be the one that's going to take Madrid? Which column? And Franco famously says, it's the 4th column. And the reporters were confused. The people inside of Madrid, our supporters, are going to rise up, and they're going to be the boy, I have that wrong. It's the 5th column. There were 4 columns marching on. Sorry about that. 4 columns marching on Madrid, and it's the 5th column that was going to take it. And that's how the term 5th columnist started, as sort of the enemy within is going to be the one that wins the battle. And so that was picked up in popular culture, in movies, and so the 5th columnist became the term for those that weren't loyal to the government in power. That's how that came about. 5th columns. Boy, I had that wrong for a second. It was 4 columns. We can see the militia out here moving around. Turkey. Fuel. Decline. So right now we're focusing our few resources on building, and we're about ready to get some more factories. No, we seem to be doing sort of up and down with this. But we have plenty of oil coming in. What I think we can do is even let's lower this a little more. And the U.S. Yes, it's a small amount, and we definitely want good relations with the U.S. As you can see, the world speeds up considerably. Okay. And we'll do that just to help the Spanish Republic out. Okay, the grand battle plan. Let's do some armor unit training. We need to get that up to be able to... improve armor. Jarrow March. Okay, the Jarrow March or Jarrow Crusade, from the phrases on the banners carried by the marchers, was an October 1936 protest march against unemployment and extreme poverty suffered in the northeast of England. 200 marchers traveled from the town of Jarrow to the Palace of Westminster in London, a distance of almost 300 miles, to lobby Parliament. Their MP, Ellen Wilkerson, known as Red Ellen, walked with them. When the marchers completed their feat, very little was done for them. The shipping industries remained closed, and all that they were given was £1 each to get the train back from London. Okay, yeah, there was a lot of, shall we say, economic problems in Britain at this time. We can give them something which I guess means more than just their £1 to get back. That's what we're going to do, but Britain was, shall we say, in a bit of a hard place at this time. The world economy wasn't doing very well. The empire was no longer, in a way, the empire that it was before. World War I exhausted Britain. The British Empire, I'm not saying they could have continued to hold down all of India, because, as I said earlier, you can't hold India without significant local support for the British Empire. A lot of Indians saw Britain as a modern, improving influence, as well as a protective influence, because I think that it's changed now, but in the 19th century and before, there were a lot of, and also partially the India-Pakistan separation helped with this, there was a lot of local conflicts within Indian culture and society, and the regional or local ethnic groups, that they saw Britain as a peacekeeper, if you will, between them. And I'm sure a few Indians will disagree with this, but the British generally weren't as despotic as some of the other historical rulers in India, and so that they maintained a reasonable balance. So I think it was just more than now some I'm sure it was just, but more than just a collaborationist element that happened in countries around Europe that Germany took. Some of the people that collaborated with Germany were pro-Nazi or pro-fascist. They were for that side. Other people, it was just like, hey, the Germans are here, we're going to do our little bit, they're going to go away someday, don't make waves, survive it. I think there were, and I think the Indians realized it, that India was, if you will, powerful, but it was divided, and it really did sort of bring somebody like Gandhi together to somewhat unify India's approach to then get rid of the British. So, like I say, Britain can't hold all of India without India's approval, but could it hold a couple of, like Bombay, a couple of key strategic locations? Absolutely. Could it hold, if it hadn't been for the Second World War at this state, could it hold places like Malaya and Singapore? Absolutely. Could it hold good chunks of Africa? Absolutely. It was the exhaustion of World War II that really finally broke that up. Now, again, places like Africa, there's a lot of cultural conflict amongst different groups of Africans, so the Europeans were definitely outsiders. Most of the intellectuals, before they got infected by a lot of the socialist revolutionary intellectualism, saw Britain as a modernizing influence, so that yes, they may be foreigners that occupy us or have conquered us, they are better than the primitive people that would be taking over. You know, I'm not talking racially here, I'm talking ethnically, as in their education stances. You know, do you have the uneducated locals, or do you have the developing English in charge of you? Now, they may have saw in time, once the education spreads to Africa, they would want their independence, but at this time it was definitely something that Britain could hold on to. But it's still, it's dual-edged sword. It's both costly as well as a source of revenue. And with the changes within the empire, with continuing changes in Britain, you have the sort of social revolution of more and more industry, but also you have less manpower intensive industry happening. You know, like today we can have a factory that humans don't work in almost, other than to maintain the machines. They no longer operate the machines. The machines are self-functioning in a large extent, and the humans just make sure they don't break and oil them and whatnot. So you go from 100 people to 10 people or whatever kind of thing. That's what was happening with elements in Britain, was continual change with a traditional society that didn't like change. These people didn't want to move out of whatever town that they were in to move to the new factories. But the new factories, because of the Great Depression in the U.S. and because of other depressing economic forces, weren't necessarily having boom places that they could readily move into. So that was all doing, give them something. Well, okay, we'll do that because we don't want the 5 in dissent. But I don't think giving them something is a good plan. I think developing plans for economic development, that would be different, which is different than giving them money. But okay, we'll give them some money. Keep them happy. We have the money to do that. Okay, well, industry advances, great. So yes, we'll get to that in a second. So we're going to continue that. We have stolen some German blueprints for trade introduction. Well, this is more of a we've stolen their manuals that help us better understand how they plan on defeating us. And the US launches the Enterprise. Okay, the BFU, the British Union of Fascists. Excuse me. Oswald Mosley's bunch. The people of East London rally to Cable Street and force back the march of the fascists. There was a lot of contention going on with the rise of fascism. And this goes back to just what I was talking about. You had Red Ellen, who is taking advantages of the changes in society to promote the communist, socialist left. You have the British Union of Fascists coming in there and talking about and identifying, both sides are identifying real problems in society, but they are promoting a fascist solution for it, as opposed to a leftist solution. One of the interesting things is, and I have some event images built and just never fully fleshed things out yet, 3 or 4 of the major, I forget their names right offhand, of the major suffragette movement element women, I mean prominent ones, all joined the fascist party and all were super active fascists. It's very interesting that the suffragettes, many of them moved over to the fascist Party and the Fascists were very welcoming of women in their hierarchy, much more so than, say, the traditional Tories and others in Britain. They were very, very welcoming. I do believe so was the Red Left, but the Fascists were very welcoming and giving a spot to women in the political structure. I find that fascinating as to how they sort of defy modern expectations that women's issues are leftist issues, that these people, that once they got the right to the vote, they fractured, and a lot of them went to the right. Very fascinating. So they were united on the vote, but past that, and which is very much different than at least the modern viewpoint of women's issues are issues of the left. So let's see what effects. They gain organization. We gain some dissent. Now I wish I would have had that other event first, because I would have removed the dissent. New industrial zone. We will actually, yep. We will get a strategic resource. And the U.S. has launched the Yorktown rigged elections. The largest opposition party made public speech. Okay, I think this is just a generic for democracies. You don't see these things in Germany because we don't have elections in Germany for playing the Nazis. Prepare a speech. We have a chance of losing dissent, losing unity. Conservative Party loses. Well, it wasn't a good one. Okay, the U.S. Money for fuel. Okay. Romania is offering a trade agreement. Money for fuel. No. Okay, rogue politician. Again, what we have to deal with in democracies. Give them your support. Lose leadership till October. Okay, that's a short time. Or gain 5. I don't want to gain 5 in the Senate. Yeah, I'm not terribly fond of these events. If they were tied to like the Jarrow March, I love those. Because they're tied to a particular politician or to a particular event. Those are great. Okay, incendiary bomb. Okay, we got that, but we're in a bit of a deficit because our leadership was lost because of that rogue politician a little bit. Uh-oh, somebody stole our blueprints. Okay, now let's look at intelligence again. We're going to reduce or eliminate spies for there, so we maintain enough at home. Italy has annexed Abyssinia. Yeah, I know there was an event that I could have theoretically intervened in, but not worth it. So we have our garrison battalion. Okay, tiny bit. Okay, standard infantry branch is upgraded, that's good. Which allows us to do more, but do defensive positions. We'll have places like Singapore. Uh-oh, we're down at low popularity. Singapore and Gibraltar that we will need to defend doggedly. Okay. The great controversy. this was a major social controversy at the time. I also think that this was something that we don't know fully about yet, and I think it very much has to do with Edward's support of fascist and Nazi governments. I've read of even post-war interviews with Wallace Simpson, and that they're continuing. I mean, this was post World War II. Their continuing support for fascists. Not that they were in support of the Nazis killing the Jews, because it was post-war, but that they weren't terribly friendly to Jews. You know, the king and queen, and they definitely maintained a continuing support of fascism, even though their country had fought it. I think that is more the reason why the crisis came about, more so than the, shall we say, front page cover story that the king was going to marry an American, was going to marry someone without any sort of aristocratic background, was going to marry someone who was divorced. I think there was some reality to that as he was prepared to step down, but I really believe that had this been his brother, in the sense that if his brother was the older one of the two, and with his brother's sort of background and record, was going to be the king, the king was going to marry Wallace Simpson, I think it would have been a problem, but I don't think he would have had to abdicate. I may be wrong on that, but I really think that there was a whole undercurrent of his activities going on that people knew about. People in sort of the elite circles knew about. That was the real reason for the abdication crisis, was the real reason for the government elites not accepting it. I think she was a symptom of it, both in the public persona, but I also think she held a lot of these ideas too, and it was sort of their crowd that they were running in. And had Edward's sort of crowd been promoted up more and more, there were a lot of fans of Germany and of Italy, much more so than chaotic France, because France was chaotic at this time. It would have been a different turning for Britain. So that's my take on this. Now we're gaining 1%. Okay. British Forces, Special Forces, branch. Okay, well, let's see, we're in November. I think we're going to start a 37 tech here because we want to get mountain infantry activation going. Money for fuel, no thank you, and yes. Okay, and as I sort of alluded to, and this is BI, a Black Ice event, BBC did start developing into television. We obviously focus on it heavily in Third Reich events for Germany. There was also a French program that was going on to some degree at this time, but sort of the big ones were Germany, a bit the BBC, but also there were a bunch of developments at this time in New York City that was also starting some early television broadcasts. So you can read about it a bit more if you want. So we lose the descent we just gained. The people, though it was extremely limited. No, okay. Okay, well, now we need to place some more factories because we're just about there. So we've increased our construction capacity. Okay, cast armor has advanced. We're going to stop that. Well, nothing yet. There to research. We will research approved medicine. Okay, well, I think we're going to end this episode here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. I do appreciate it. Please post your comments. You can post your comments on my commentary. Again, so long as it's nice, civil, peaceful. Dispute the facts that I'm putting out, whether with historic, sometimes people can put out good historical facts that disprove what I'm saying, and I'm glad to learn more. But even just your ideas, glad to talk with you about them. See you next time.